This is Border Battle with King and CJ with King.
You want to go get a hot dog at halftime? Well, guess what? You can also take the under in the second half of 25. You know what I mean?
And CJ.
You can win Super Bowls right now with me and Grandpa Brady over here. Let's do it that way.
Presented by the fine students and faculty of the Oklahoma State University School of Media and Strategic Communications in beautiful Paul Miller Building. Broadcast live on KXZY, OSU Student Radio. And now, live from Studio 318, it's Border Battle with Jordan the Great King and CJ the Viking Notch.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXZY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on Demand. That's where we're simulcasting this stream. If you're more of a visual person, head over to those places, and you can watch us instead of just listening to us. Chris, we're going to get into the NBA today. I'm going to have a little rant in segment 2 about the lack of competitive integrity in the NBA. We're going to be, we'll talk some cowgirl basketball again, get that back into it, the WNBA draft, some WNBA draft talk, and then a little NFL news update to end the day today. Just a quick note on yesterday's games, a couple not-so-great situations on the diamond for the Cowgirls and Cowboys, respectively. You were at the Cowgirl game, gave up a bunch of runs late in that one, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They're doing well. It's 2-1, top of the 6th. It was a snowball effect. They ended up scoring University of Texas Arlington. Ended up scoring 7 runs that inning.
That's a lot of runs.
Yeah. Or 8 runs, I should say, because it was 9-2 was the final. With the top of the 6th, they play 7 innings, and so that's too big of a deficit. It's unfortunate, but it happens, sadly.
Right. So that was that one. In the men's game, they blew a hefty lead themselves. I believe a 5-run lead, and in 2 innings, they gave up 8 runs, 5 in the top of the 9th. And lost to Wichita State, including what ended up being a game-winning 3-run shot, just a mammoth home run for the Wichita State guys. So again, got to get back on track for both programs.
Yeah, and I will say quickly to add, I think if anything, what people need to realize with this loss to Wichita State, there's probably a lot of fatigue was also into that because they've been playing. That was, I think, their fourth straight game.
Yeah, but
they'd been in Kansas. They just got back.
Can't blame it on that though.
You
got to win when you're.
But at the same time, because they played 5 or 6 pitchers, I think, yesterday.
I don't know what it was, but
you can't fully that's not. You guys had the lead. They scored. I think the 5 runs with 2 outs left. There's 2 outs in the game.
Look, there's no excuse for having a 5-run lead in the last 2 innings and losing. There's no excuse to that. So I understand you trying to defend them and find a way out, but there's no excuse.
Fully trying to give them an excuse to get out of it. I'm just saying that is a potential factor.
Well, no doubt that's a factor, but every team goes through it at this point in the year. You're right in the middle of it. So I just think when you have that kind of lead late in a ball game, you got to be able to close it out. So, all right, we're going to talk about the NBA first here. Talk about the NBA playoffs. We'll start over in the East, starting to shake out here. There's a couple different scenarios. The Sixers need to win tonight. I thought actually they clinched it last night. They have to win tonight to get the 3 seed. Let me ask you this. I'm gonna throw some more likelies at you throughout the show today. I'm just gonna throw them at you. We didn't talk about this beforehand. What is more likely, the Bucks beating the 76ers or beating the Boston Celtics? If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, which team would you rather face in the first round?
Well, things like that. That's an obvious to me. It's the Celtics, just because the Celtics are so depleted. They lost another game now to the Wizards. So the Celtics have. So yeah, if I'm the Bucks, I want the Celtics. What team in the playoff picture doesn't want the Celtics right now in the first round? They're a wounded duck, so to speak, and someone wants to pounce on it and get potentially an easy first round victory.
Yeah. So again, if you're the Bucks, their scenarios are if they win, they have a chance. The Cleveland Cavaliers then have a chance to the 3 seed. So if you're the Bucks, do you really want to mess around with playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round? I just don't know if you do. You know what I mean? It's just I think a loss, even if you stay at the 6th seed, you're playing the Sixers in the playoffs. And I think even with the winning streak, you look at the Sixers, some of their opponents have been really weak. So I think that definitely has something to do with it. If I'm the Bucks, I'm not necessarily losing the game, and I'm going to get into why I hate this narrative. But as long as every other team in the playoffs and in the league is doing it to where, how do you play? Like, do you try to lose games? If the rest of the league's going to do it, why not you? And I think it could be smart for the Bucks. Now, I will. Here's my next. What's more likely? More likely to happen: a sweep of the Wizards, or the Wizards, if they're the 8th seed, taking Toronto to 7 games. What's more likely?
When you say Wizards getting swept, what's more likely of them getting swept by Toronto or taking them to 7?
Yes.
Okay.
What's more likely? Because the Wizards beat Toronto last night. Now
Wizards beat Celtics last night.
Or Celtics, I'm sorry. Wizards playing some decent basketball lately.
I would say more likely to go 7 than a sweep. I don't know. I mean, are they a dangerous 8 seed? Yeah. They would be if that's the seeding they're going to get. We'll find out after tonight's games are all done. But I'm more comfortable saying more than likely going 7 games over a sweep. I think if no matter what, Toronto's going to at least win 1 or 2 if the Wizards do beat them, but I don't think they'll get swept.
All right, let's head over to the West real quick and check out the Western Conference standings as they sit right now. Rockets obviously 1, Golden State 2. So there's going to be a bunch of shifting. There's a ton of scenarios. There's 44 different scenarios for the entire playoffs seeding to shake out yet tonight. I want to start with the 8th seed. Minnesota and Denver, your Minnesota T-Pups, as you call them, Timberwolves, are currently the 8th seed. They have the same record. It's a play-in game. Winner goes, loser goes home. Number 1, you get Jimmy Butler back, and you're still in this scenario. It's kind of a nightmare for Minnesota at this point, considering the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, it's a nightmare because they went like 7-8 or 7-9 with Butler out, which
is fine, right?
I mean, yeah, which is fine. You'd rather be closer to 500 with him out than them losing, only going like 3-12 or something like that. Yes, for sure. But it's the thing with this narrative. And if you're someone that's from Minnesota or a fan of the Timberwolves, or even just Minnesota professional teams, this is something that seems to happen all the time to professional sports. Like, we're always used to going down the wire. The Twins did it like twice in the span of 3 years. And
well, I mean, even last year they were in the wild card game,
wild card, but they like having to go to basically a 163rd game when there's 162 in a season. I mean, the amount of pressure, really, this is going to be, to me, Denver's game to lose, because there's going to be so much pressure on the Timberwolves because they have the longest active streak for non-playoffs for the drought. It's 14 or something like that. So the sense of like they need, like, there's no, okay, if you lose you maybe have a chance. Like, this is it. Karl Anthony Towns had said something too. He said the last time 2 games mattered, it didn't turn out well for them. That's when they lost to your Wisconsin Badgers in the Final Four.
Yes.
I mean, it like the last big game he's really had was that, and it didn't turn out well. So, I mean, the pressure's all on the Timberwolves for this, and it's at home. Denver beat them by 4 a couple nights ago. So, I mean, yes, they've been good matchups. Right now we have the series 2-1. That's why, if people are wondering, when you look on ESPN, that's why we're 8 and they're 9, because we have the tiebreaker right now.
But it doesn't matter.
But yeah, it's not going to matter. This is a
playing game.
Win or go home.
It's interesting because this is as close to the wild card game in baseball that I think we're ever going to get in the NBA. I don't think the NBA is ever going to expand the playoffs. I think right now you're looking at a pretty good number with 16 teams. So if you're the Timberwolves, how confident are you tonight? As a fan, how confident are you tonight, being it is at home? You got them at home.
I mean,
is it more pressure, or does it do you more good than pressure?
No, I think it does you better being at home than in Denver, just because, like they say, with Denver being a higher altitude, that can affect you. So yes, it's better to be at home, but I still think it's the pressure of doing it in front of your home fans. It's that sense of, look, we're at home, we're in front of our home fans, we have a full healthy team. Is Butler fully there? Maybe not. But, he's been back a few games now, so you expect him to, he's going to give his all. Someone made the comment, does Thibodeau just play all starters 40 minutes?
Probably.
And I was like, honestly, as a fan, as much as I, ragged on Thibodeau for all year playing a starter so much, if it was to get us in, I'd say go for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
you like you said, this is like a play-in game for the playoffs.
This is the playoffs now, right?
Right. For them, it's the start of the playoffs.
Essentially, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, and so if that's what it takes, go for it. I am totally okay with that. And, there's scenarios that we could all of a sudden, if we do win, we could play the Warriors, which is kind of our best hope.
For what it's worth, 3.5 points favorites are the Minnesota Timberwolves at home tonight against the Denver Nuggets. Karl Anthony Towns averaging 21.2 points per game, 12.3 boards, couple assists. So that's kind of the matchup. Jokic or whatever his name is, guy that had the quick. I just remember him against the Bucks, had the quick triple-double against the Bucks. He's averaging 18 and just under 11 boards. Something to say?
I will say this real quick. The key factor for this game is going to be the play of Andrew Wiggins. I don't care. Yes, Butler and Towns are going to do their stuff. They are going to be who they are. Wiggins is the key factor here because he's been so in and out that if he goes 3-14 from 9 points, like it doesn't matter. So he needs to play like the max contract that he was just given by the Timberwolves, or it's over.
Yeah, by the way, he should not have been given a max contract.
That's
like the Tavon Austin deal the Rams continue to give him in football. Okay, I want to ask you, most likely, again, here's a most likely. I'm not going to give you 2 options. You get 4. Most likely, and we'll get to the Thunder scenario because there's a scenario that the Thunder are 4. I'm going to assume the Thunder are not in the top 4. So looking at the current rankings, the most likely lower 4 seed to win in the first round: the Pelicans, Spurs, Thunder, or Timberwolves.
Ooh, to go on to the next round?
Or Nuggets if you have the Nuggets winning. I'm assuming you have the Timberwolves.
I have the Timberwolves winning. A lot of, the hardest thing with this, though, is it depends who each team is playing.
Okay, so right now...
give me a scenario of, the 4 who they'd be playing.
I'm going to say, because it's very unlikely, actually it's impossible now that the Thunder actually play the Golden State Warriors. So we won't have that. We'll say the Timberwolves win and they're the 8th seed. They get the Rockets. That probably one year picking the Rockets. Let's say Spurs, Warriors, Blazers, Pelicans, and Utah Jazz, Oklahoma City Thunder.
Pelicans
over the
Trailblazers, because the Trailblazers are on a 4-game losing streak. They haven't looked consistent, which, I mean, it's not to say they can't get hot again. The Trailblazers came out of nowhere. Even the Jazz, give the Jazz credit for what they've done. I know we talked about it on Monday, too, with what Quinn Snyder's done with the team. But with the Pelicans, with the way Anthony Davis is playing, Boogie went down and Davis just he's almost pulling a LeBron James in the regular season. Like, playoffs LeBron is now Davis, but in the regular season.
So are you worried that maybe Davis doesn't continue that success into the postseason? Because that's kind of my concern. Is I think Damian Lillard, as far as having a better supporting cast, he does over Anthony Davis's supporting cast. So that's kind of a worry if I'm to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I mean, and to add to that, you could say, is he tired? Is he getting worn out from doing all the lifting that he's been doing? And he's been doing it since he's got drafted by them. So, you deal with that too. But I mean, they put up a 7-game series against the Warriors a few years back. So, I mean, I'm not going to put it past them. Maybe the Spurs against the Warriors, that would be another enticing matchup. But again, they don't have Leonard.
Playing bad right now.
Right. The Spurs have not been doing great either.
Yeah.
So that was like the most favorable. Maybe the Jazz, Thunder, but the Jazz have been actually playing really good basketball as of late.
Yeah, and I know the Thunder. I believe the Thunder have owned the season series with the Jazz, but a lot of that comes down to whether the big man from Utah played. I forget his name now. Rudy Gobert. He didn't play in like 3 of those games against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think that's interesting. Give me your early favorite that is not. Okay, you can throw in who do you got? The Rockets or the Warriors? Because I think those got to be your favorites, right?
Oh yeah, you mean to get to like the Western Conference Finals?
No, to get to the championship.
Yeah. It's going to be Rockets or Warriors.
No, I mean who is it? Give me one.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go Rockets.
Rockets.
Yeah.
All right, that's easy enough. I'm good with that. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna stay in the Western Conference, talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then talk about something that just makes me incredibly angry in the NBA. All of that is next on the Border Battle on KXCY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle On Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. Seeing some highlights there of the Philadelphia 76ers dominating the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris hoping for different results tonight as his Minnesota Timberwolves, I believe a 7 p.m. Central Time game, host the Denver Nuggets. All right, we're going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Here are the Thunder's playoff scenarios. It's simple for the Thunder now. You will beat the Grizzlies. It comes down to 2 games. Grizzlies Thunder tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time, and then they'll get done. That game probably get done around 9. 9:30 tips off the Jazz and the Trailblazers. If the Trailblazers win, the Jazz lose, the Thunder somehow in this what everyone considers to be awful season get a top 4 seed, get home court in the first round of the playoffs. If the Jazz win, the Thunder will be the 6th seed and then play against the Jazz, who will be the 3 seed. So either way, looking at a Jazz Thunder game, whether it's a 3-6 and the Jazz host or a 4-5 and the Thunder host, if the Thunder lose, they will be an 8 seed. The Thunder are not going to lose. We will get to that in a second. So the Thunder get off the court tonight and beat the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 6-34. You heard that right, 6-34 on the road, and then they will get to essentially, unless that game goes to overtime for some reason, get to watch the Jazz and Trailblazers go at it, and with the potential that this could be a home court advantage game for the Oklahoma City Thunder. How shocked are you that the Oklahoma City Thunder, with the narrative in this state, the media, everyone freaking out, fans concerned, that they could potentially host the first round of the playoffs?
Part of me is actually not shocked, just for the fact of we always knew the West was going to be tough. It was always going to be haymakers. Granted, it was hard. You don't have Kawhi Leonard, so the Spurs aren't who they could be with Kawhi potentially. But besides the Rockets and the Warriors, 3 through 8 are all basically 2 games apart. I mean, it's one of those things. Positioning, every team was jockeying for position. So, I mean, surprised to go to a 4? Not really. Just for the fact of like the parity between the bottom half of this Western Conference playoff bracket is so much in line. I mean, the Timberwolves at one point were the 3, and now they potentially could be the 7 or the 8 if they win.
Yeah. So not guaranteed to get into the playoffs. That's very interesting. I think you're right. This would be an overachievement for this Thunder team. This is not a 3-seed Thunder team, not even with Robertson. This is not a 3-seed Thunder team. This should not be a 4-seed Thunder team. This team has not over the course of 82 games played well enough to be hosting a playoff game. Now, that's not to say that they don't in some way deserve it. They've won the games they're supposed to win, and now they find themselves in this situation. So I'm not saying that this is like some sort of awful thing that's happening. Good for the Thunder. I'm just saying, if you look at the way they've played, some of the losses they have, it is shocking to me that they are. But I understand your point of there really being just a 2-horse race in the West right now. So I understand that. Let me ask you, more likely beating the Jazz? Is there a big difference between the Jazz on the road and the Jazz at home? Is there a big significant difference that Thunder fans should be worried about?
I don't know. Not really. Maybe. It's the thing is, like, the Jazz are 20-20 away. They're 28-13 at home. It's maybe a horse apiece. I guess I haven't really seen. You said the Thunder own the matchup, right, against the
3-1.
the
I
Jazz,
believe they've been against the Jazz.
I don't think so. I think with the experience that the Thunder have, I think that is what gives them the edge. Really any team they match up with, besides let's say the Spurs, and then obviously the 1 and 2 teams of the Rockets and Thunder. Like no one else, the Pelicans, Trailblazers, in the potentially Wolves, Nuggets. No one really has playoff experience like the Thunder do.
Well, the Blazers do to a certain
the Blazers,
extent.
Okay, yeah, some of the guys.
Yeah,
McCollum and Lillard. And a few,
you're never going to have a full roster that does.
Right. But I don't know. I think it's a toss up. I don't know if there's really an edge of, okay, if we're at home, we have a much better chance of winning than if we're on the road.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't think it makes that big of a difference. All you have to do is go win 1 out in Utah, and you have home court.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that hard to figure out. It's not rocket science to figure out the NBA playoffs or the MLB playoffs for that matter. You know, there is a slight chance that the Oklahoma City Thunder could be playing against the Houston Rockets in the first round. That would require the Memphis Grizzlies, again 6-34, away to come in to the Chesapeake Energy Arena and beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. They will not do that. Here's why. They're not going to play their best players. They haven't for the past. They've been very, oh, we're just going to be careful with our good guys, right? Marc Gasol, no, we don't even need to play you down the stretch here. Why would we do that? Why would we risk him? Because of competitive integrity. That's why you do it. And the NBA has the worst problem among any sport with this problem. Of teams that had to play the Grizzlies early on in the year, when they had playoff aspirations, when this was supposed to be a top 6 team in the West. That's when they had to play the full Memphis Grizzlies, playing as hard as they can, trying to win ball games. And now you got to play a team that doesn't have Marc Gasol, that's going to put on the court a G League roster for the Thunder. Good for the Thunder. They're going to win the game. They have a chance to be a 4 seed. But it's pathetic. The Thunder do not hold a tiebreaker against anyone that they're competing with in the West. They split with the Spurs. That's the only team that they even split with. So they can't catch the Jazz or Trailblazers. By the way, they were swept by the Trailblazers this year. And then you look at the other teams they're going against. Pelicans have the advantage over the Thunder. Spurs, as we said, tied. Denver holds the tiebreaker over the Thunder. Minnesota holds the tiebreaker over the Thunder. If you can't beat the teams that are around you, you shouldn't be able to leapfrog them because the Grizzlies aren't playing their guys. Because the Grizzlies gave up. Because they want a higher draft pick. Because somehow a higher draft pick is going to save you in the NBA when clearly it shows that it doesn't work. You still need to get lucky. You still need to have Ben Simmons turn out, which looked like it wasn't going to happen after year 1. Joel Embiid looked like that was a wasted draft pick. It turned out that he was able to finally get healthy. Markelle Fultz looked like it was a wasted draft pick at number 1. It doesn't work. Tanking doesn't work. And people are going to say, oh, well, it worked for the 76ers. That's an outlier. It is. And we have teams now compromising the competitive integrity of an entire league. Because they want a higher draft pick. They want a better chance. Not even a higher draft pick. They want a better chance at a higher draft pick. It's not even guaranteed. Do you see Joe Thomas for the 0-15 Browns sitting out? Nope. Not unless he's hurt. Do you see the Browns putting in their backup quarterback? Nope. The closest thing we got to it was the Giants putting in Davis Webb. Or putting in Geno Smith. That's the closest thing we got to that in the NFL. Teams don't tank in the NFL the way they do in the NBA. You don't see the Packers saying, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers hurt this year. We're not going to play Nelson. We're not going to play Devontae Adams. We're not going to play Randall Cobb. Why would we play any of them? Clay Matthews, sit down. You don't see that. There's competitive integrity in the NFL. And that's one where if you try to lose and you lose every game, you're guaranteed the number 1 draft pick. And if you are that bad of a team and you do get the number 1 draft pick, your one quarterback, can all of a sudden put you back into a division race. Here in the NBA, we're going to watch the Thunder avoid the 8 seed, avoid a sure first round out to the Houston Rockets because the Memphis Grizzlies don't want to win.
I'm going to quickly add real quick.
And it's pathetic.
Not to discredit what you're saying. I totally agree. But I think also no matter what, I don't think the Thunder will let that happen anyways because the Thunder still have something to play for. Yes.
But you can't say that.
Saying, right. So you don't think the Thunder have something to play for?
No, they do have something to play for. What I'm saying is you're then saying the Grizzlies are not good enough to beat the Thunder. Early in the year, if you had the Grizzlies and the Thunder, maybe not at home, but if you put them on a neutral court, what would you say?
I'm not talking about early in the year. I'm just talking about if they played Gasol. I get it. Their team's depleted. I'm just saying I think no matter, even if Gasol was playing, the Thunder were probably still going to win.
And you can make that argument. I'm fine with that argument. But then go play Gasol. And if you're scared of him getting hurt, play him for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Play him for 25 minutes. People are buying tickets months in advance. I wouldn't even buy a ticket. Why go watch the NBA? Why watch this product when you know it's diluted late in the year? It's garbage. It's garbage. All right, rant over. We'll try to be better next segment. We'll talk some cowgirl basketball, WNBA. Where should Lauren Goodwin and Kaylee Jensen be drafted? That's all next on the Border Battle on KXCY.
What is arts and sciences?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories
Of the past.
of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation.
Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis. You can do anything.
With nearly 100 degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.
To our neighbors and friends, we come to you today to let you know what's on our hearts. Because you're the reason what we do is so much more meaningful than a job. The reason we believe in the power of investing in tomorrow and the power of community. So this is simply thank you. As we step boldly into a time of growth and change, consider this our promise that every investment in our hospital is an investment in our communities.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY, Southern Lake Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. I'm kind of calmed down now. Chris, I do want to give you a chance to get a fair rebuttal because I kind of ran us right up to the break there. If you want to, if you have a point you wanted to make.
Well, no, I mean, I don't really have a rebuttal. Like I was kind of saying, I guess at the break, it's a true statement, and it's hard to kind of
well, I mean,
against the Grizzlies because they've never really been a full team. So
because you mentioned during the break they beat the Timberwolves,
right? With Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol played, yeah, and they beat the Timberwolves. So
if you're the Timberwolves, why is that fair for them to have to play Marc Gasol and the stars of that team? However good you want to say they were, if you're not going, this is quitting. So for them to have to play them, and now they see the Thunder get this treatment. If you're the Timberwolves, you got to be furious,
right? Well, and honestly, if I'm the Grizzlies, I almost want to play that devil's advocate, so to speak, of like, hey, I could really ruffle up the playoff picture. You see it all the time with these teams that. Look what the Hawks did. The past few games, the teams that are like beating on the Celtics. Granted, they're locked in, but some of these games, it's like that's also what you love to play for. You like to be that team that's like, hey, I could give you guys a loss, and that could hurt your playoff potential standings. Yeah. Like that's what you live for.
And I mean, the Grizzlies could play Marc Gasol tonight, and everyone's going to say, well, you were wrong. So even if that happens, I don't really care. This happens every year in the NBA where we have these scenarios of people not playing down the stretch. It ruins the league. It really does. It hurts the league's product, and it hurts the optics of the league down the stretch. All right, let's talk about the WNBA. Should Jensen and Goodwin get drafted, Chris? And if so, where? I'm going to make it simple.
Oh, man, I should have pulled up my my mock draft board here. Well, hey, I'm a big, for those of you who don't know, I actually enjoy watching WNBA. Yes, it helps that the Minnesota Lynx are like one of the best teams right now in the WNBA. But I was thinking about this during the break. I think Jensen has the best chance of being drafted. Not that Goodwin can't. I think Goodwin potentially can get there. The issue is here, like, there's only 12 teams in the WNBA for one. So it's like it's the elites of the elites that are actually playing in this league. But like with the inconsistencies that Goodwin's kind of showed towards the end of the season this year, not to say like that's a hint of like how she could be, throughout her career. That's not what I'm trying to say, but like post players are what you kind of need more to try and go against Brittany Griner, Sylvia Fowles, some of these big post players that are in the WNBA right now. That, does she not have the height? No, but she has the size to kind of help push them around and kind of at least be a bruiser. But I don't know. It's one of those questions with so little chance to actually get there. It's hard to say.
Well, it's interesting because let me pull up a mock draft on ESPN here. Michelle Vopel, sure I'm butchering that name, but her mock draft has Lauren Goodwin ahead of Kaylee Jensen. Why do you think that is? What is the redeeming? I mean, if you look at Lauren Goodwin's stats this past year, they were arguably better than Kaylee Jensen's, right?
Right. And if anything, if I'm looking at it from a perspective, I'm seeing it as a shooter. Like, you want to spread the perimeter. It's like any basketball game. You want your potential players that are going to be able to spread the floor. And she was crafty. She was a very crafty player, Lauren Goodwin is. And is she a great 3-point shooter? Probably not. I don't think she was.
I'm going to.
But
go ahead.
But she was one of those, like, she could at least catch from the three, and she's a driver. She likes to go with her left hand, a little bit right hand. So I just see it as a scoring side of it. That scorer's mentality of shooters are going to shoot. You saw it when she was even not having a good game. She was still shooting.
Well, okay, I'm okay with you calling her a scorer. I'm not okay with calling her a shooter. The reason I didn't put her 3-point field goal percentage on here, this is a point guard, by the way, a guard that you would expect to be a decent shooter. She shot 26% from 3-point land this year. And that number went up throughout the season. She was at 16-17% for the majority of the year. Here's what I think her most redeeming quality is. But by the way, if you put shooters around her, you saw what Jaden Hobbs, Braxton Miller, Maria Castro. You saw what even Jensen can shoot the three.
Mandy Coleman.
You see what these shooters can do around her. Now, if she can add a 3-point shot, she's obviously that much more valuable, and that's probably is what is holding her in the second round right now, a second round grade over a first round grade for her, and whether she'll play at all or not, it remains to be seen. What I like about her is that she averages. There were several games this year she had a shot to get a triple-double with rebounds and assists. She's willing to get in and get a rebound. She's willing to pass the ball. She's a great passer. She sees the floor extremely well. And she had 111 steals. I led the conference. She was, I think, top 10 in the country in steals this year. And, again, at the next level, if you got someone that's willing to play defense, do the little things, get the assists, see the floor well, rebound, I think you have redeeming qualities as a guard. So I think that's something that bodes well for her.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like you said, if she's willing to do the little things, the dirty work, like that's what you want out of your guards, the ones that can rebound, the ones that aren't afraid to go into the paint and maybe get pushed around a little bit because they're going up against some of these bigger bodies, Brittany Griner, Sylvia Fowles.
Well, the number one, the consensus number 1 pick this year, Asia Wilson.
Yeah.
She's big.
Yeah, I can't think of her name off the top of my head. UConn's 6'6" forward, center. She's getting potential draft, I think, in the top 10 as well. So it's like there's these big bodies that are coming in and
Stevens, 6'6". Yep.
So if you have a guard that's she's 6 foot, maybe 6'1",
Lauren Goodwin, just 5'9",
5'9", and willing to go down, into the paint. I mean, that's what you want to see. You want someone to have the heart that isn't afraid to do the dirty work.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You have a quote from that Jordan Bishop. We've had him on the show. He was on a conference call with Bill Laimbeer. What did Bill Laimbeer say about the two Oklahoma State products this year and whether they look at, those kind of – if they look at Oklahoma State as a place that you go get talent from?
Yeah. So what he actually said is he was like, I think players are going to – one's going to get drafted, one might not. I think that this league, it's so hard to make a roster spot. First-round picks get cut all the time. So last year, actually, Chicago – he said, look at Chicago. The Sky cut the first-round pick last year. So every year's a change is different. And then coaches come and go in college basketball, as do players. It's just a matter of where the talent's at. And Oklahoma State's always gives the mid-second-round picks. They don't get any real superstars. I think they're more of a middle-of-the-road school for talent.
Well, I think that's interesting because other than the marquee, the top programs in college basketball, you do have a lot of movement, and you do have to have those years where you kind of make your runs like Littell and the women did this year, because you don't know when that next good recruiting class is going to be coming from and when that is going to get there. Now they got a 4 and a 5-star recruit coming in. Oklahoma State does. Jordan Bishop also reported that as well, so he's doing some good work for the Stillwater News Press, and we probably have him on one more time here this spring. But you don't necessarily know where that's going to come from, so I think that's interesting that Bill Laimbeer says that.
Yeah, well, and to make, I guess, a little more of a point, I know it's getting a little off, but with talking with only 12 teams, maybe 15, 16 players on the roster each, so the first round player that he was talking about was actually Tori Jankowska from Michigan State. And so this is what she did at Michigan State. She is the women's all-time leader for history for points, made threes, made free throws, second in assists. She's the first Spartan woman and only the 5th Michigan State player to ever top 2,000 points. And now she got a contract in Poland, overseas. It shows you, with it being so tough to get in this league and the fit of team style. Like, they may draft you, but if you don't fit their style, they're like, look, we don't have a lot of options. We got to try and find the missing piece to go against, the Los Angeles Sparks, the Lynx of Minnesota. The margin for error is so slim in the WNBA that it's tough to make it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you even look in the NBA.
Right.
It's you take some of these guys. You talk about drafting in the MLB and then having to pay your dues and go through single A and double A all the way up to the big leagues. It's been very similar for mid and late round draft picks in the NBA as well. Unless you make some sort of splash right away in camp, you're probably going to the D League or the G League now, and you're going to have to play there for however long. You look at the first round draft pick for the Bucks, he doesn't play for him.
Right.
So I think it's very similar, even to a greater extent, for the women's game.
Yeah, and to add to that, at least with the men's side, you at least have the G League. Used to be the D League. WNBA, if you're cut, unless a team picks you up,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. You're either gonna if you want to keep playing professional, you're gonna have to look overseas. If not, your career's over more than likely, unless a team all of a sudden wants to try you out. The next year if you get invited to a tryout at a camp, but otherwise, your career could potentially end after you get drafted.
Yeah, which can like we talked about earlier off air, there can be some redeeming qualities to going and getting paid a little bit more overseas as well. I want to mention this. We don't have enough time to switch topics, so we're going to keep it right here in the WNBA. Your Minnesota Lynx take shooting guard with the last pick in this mock draft. Take shooting guard from Minnesota, Carly Wagner. She is really fun to watch. We watched, what jumps to mind is when we watched Iowa, Minnesota out in New York when we were out there. Really fun player to watch. Could she be a player that sticks with the Lynx, or is the Lynx just too good?
No, I think she could, because the Lynx actually lost a good set of their bench. Renee Montgomery, one of the best, like the most coveted free agent this year for WNBA, and now she went to the Atlanta Dreams. So, I mean, there's a chance. Carly's going to have to show she can provide right from the get-go, because that's the thing with WNBA. You got to provide right from the start, or you're getting looked over.
She's a really dynamic player, though, so I think she could, if you're looking to make a splash, I think she's one that could make a splash at the next level. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, talking some NFL news, including some news from Titletown, USA. 100 seasons, what is that all about? We'll tell you next. Border Battle KXCY.
Against Kansas in that win, 12 threes made. Against OU, 9 threes made. Against Baylor, both times they played them, 5 threes.
Falling into this role, I kind of like it. Just any chance I get to throw for this team and go out there and help them out in any way possible. I love to do that for them.
Is it disappointing for this team to know that they could potentially, if given the opportunity, have success in March, but the thing is it's looking less and less like they're actually going to get there?
I mean, you're dealing with right now, the premier softball program in the nation in Oklahoma.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXZY. Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. It's a 2-year celebration for the Green Bay Packers, 100 years as a franchise. Oh, man. It's amazing. It's amazing. Don't just let me be now.
Just let you bask in the moment.
This is really cool, and they're doing a really cool tailgate tour about this, and that, fans are going to be able to go out and meet the president, Mark Murphy, meet all kinds of people. I'm sure they're going to have players, former players, legends, all going on this tailgate tour. So really cool opportunity for Green Bay. I just wanted to find a reason to get that in, honestly.
I will say this: people may call me a hypocrite, whatever, but honestly, besides when the Packers are playing the Vikings, which obviously, yeah, then I'm like, I hate the Packers. But I still have respect for what the Packers have done as an organization. I will admit, yeah, people might be like, oh, you're a Vikings fan? You're giving them, yeah, for what they've done. I mean, I think it's great that they're able to do this and showcase the history of what, some of the greats that have come out of Green Bay have done,
Yeah, love or hate Green Bay, you cannot argue that it is one of, if not the most historic franchise in the NFL.
No, I agree, and I think later on, if the Patriots do something like this, it's that same kind of respect. Yes, they may have done cheating, whatever, and I'm not trying. They may have had that kind of issue then, but you still have to give the respect where respect is credited and needs to be given, because what they're doing now is something maybe 25, 30 years from now is like, hey, you know what? It was one of the best runs that a player and coach have gone on, minus dealing with all the outside noise that happened. It's the same with the Packers for what they did in the beginning. Even in the past, decade or so. Hats off to them.
Yeah. It's cool, and obviously as a fan, it's cool to kind of see this celebration. It's historic. It just is. It's a century of football, and it's really cool. So we'll see what the next 100 years of football takes, where it takes us, if we have 100 years.
If we get there.
With all the concussion issues and stuff like that. But it's going to take a lot to, I think, to kill off football altogether. All right, so NFL, we're going to get some NFL news here. I'm going to give you some what-ifs, or would you rathers, or what's more likely. We'll do it that way. What's more likely? Odell Beckham Jr. in 3 years. Odell Beckham Jr. is a Giant, or Bill Belichick is no longer a Patriot? What is more likely in 3 years?
I'm going to say Bill Belichick not being a Patriot, because I personally feel that when Brady hangs it up, Belichick's going to hang it up.
I think it could be sooner.
Yeah, but I'm saying within the next 3 years, yeah, Gronk, I would put Gronk in that same category from the remarks he's made of I'm only going to play as long as Tom does, potentially, not to say he won't play longer, but I could see this being a thing of, it's that player coach mentality. I mean, there was the rumors when Tim Duncan was going to retire that, hey, Pop might hang it up, Ginobili and Parker, they might all do it together and just hang it up.
Yeah, which is interesting here. There is more going on in New England than people are giving it credit for. I think Bill Belichick is getting sick of what's going on there. I think he's sick of Tom Brady, honest to God. I think he's sick of coaching Tom Brady. And the fact that for whatever reason, Robert Kraft thinks that one player is bigger than the organization. I don't think that really flies with Bill Belichick. I would say in 3 years, he's more likely to be out. And also, with all this trade talk with Odell Beckham, I think people are forgetting the most likely scenario is that he stays in New York. With the trade value that they're asking for him, no team is going to trade that kind of value and then also have Odell knocking on the door saying, I want $20 million a year and I want $40 million guaranteed in the first 2 years. You can't give up that and still pay him that money. So I think what the likely thing to happen is he will just be a giant longer term.
Right, and to add to that too, if you know, even if when he's a free agent, OBJ, the only teams that are going to be able to offer money are the bad teams in a sense. You know, Browns, Jets, potentially depending on when he'd be a free agent. You know, teams like the Vikings aren't going to have the, you know, if he's wanting to go into like a win mode, like a win now mode, he's not going to get what he wants.
Yeah,
you know, when he's fully in his prime. So yeah, his best scenario, his best interest would be to stay with the Giants, just like the Giants would be to keep him because he's still fairly young. They're obviously probably, you would think, draft a quarterback either this year, if not for sure next year, because Eli's getting up there in age. I mean,
well, you'd think, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. You
know, so yeah, you scratch your head at that if you really want to keep your star player happy. But
right,
you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Well, again, you don't win based on wide receiver talent, so you know that's the way it goes. But yes, he would be a good asset to keep around. If you're the Browns, would you rather have Would you rather have Sam Darnold and Bradley Chubb, or Sam Darnold and Saquon Barkley with your first pick and your fourth pick?
I gotta go with Sam Darnold and Saquon Barkley, just because of what Saquon Barkley can do. Not that Chubb is a bad running back. That's not what I'm saying.
Bradley Chubb is a pass rusher.
Oh, is he a pass rusher? Okay.
Nick Chubb is the running back.
Okay,
yeah,
sorry. No, I if you can get Saquon and Sam Darnold, I mean, I'm not real high on Sam Darnold, but if you can get a one of the top quarterbacks and Saquon, oh heck yeah, I'd be taking that because Saquon was going to ease pressure off of your quarterback because that was the thing with even Deshaun Kaiser. Who's his running back? Honestly, I couldn't even name who they're.
Well, Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson, by the way, he's a pretty good running back. I think Duke Johnson, given the right scheme, he can't be your bell cow back, but he is a very talented running back. And I'm with you. I like the idea of putting Saquon Barkley in that backfield. I do think, though, this is a win-win. If you don't get Barkley would be my first choice as well. I think Barkley is the best player in the draft. But if you're able to get Bradley Chubb, I think Bradley Chubb is the second or third best player in the draft. And I really would like Bradley Chubb there, too. You put him next to... All of a sudden, you have Oklahoma State alumnus Emmanuel Ogbah being your situational pass rusher. He is not he's a starter. And if you have the kind of talent to put him in, just keep him fresh and say, hey, go get the quarterback on third down, that would be really, really good for the Cleveland Browns, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, well, and like you said, at the same, we're always going after the Browns like, oh, they need a quarterback. But at the same time, you got to remember it's a two-way game, so to speak. Like, you also have to have a defense. Like, you can't just rely on your offense to always score points and just score more points than what the opposing team's going to do. So, yeah, at the same time to kind of, get more pressure, from your defensive line to kind of, build that up as well. Kind of like what the Jaguars have done through the draft and stuff, and kind of, you have to shore up both sides.
Bigger need for the Minnesota Vikings heading into this draft. Offensive line depth or defensive line depth?
Woof. Man.
Because in my opinion, I think it's going to be difficult for the Minnesota Vikings to replicate the health they had on the offensive line. Normally, offensive lines aren't as healthy as Minnesota's was last year, right?
Right.
So
yeah, that's compared to the year before where they had, I think it was kind of like what Oklahoma State dealt with this year. They had one guy I think actually played
like a rotating door.
Yeah, that could actually played the whole season. Everyone else was in and out, and they were switching guys around. But honestly, I would go D-line. Here's why. It's the fact of the money you've just given to Cousins, and the guys that are now on defense that are coming up for contracts and stuff. Because if you can't pay all these guys, you got to hope that you have someone that's kind of waiting in the wings that can fill these places. You got Eric Kendricks, you have Anthony Barge, Trey Waynes is coming up. You have all these defensive guys. Granted they did just get Sheldon Richardson, but from the free agency, but it's still the sense of you got to think in the future of what you're going to be dealing with the signing of Kirk Cousins of what future money looks like. And so honestly, I'm looking at the defensive side. Yes, can you hope that the offensive line stays, relatively healthy? If there's a few injuries, it's going to happen. But really, my main concern for the future is my defense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that is kind of what happens. And by the way, Sheldon Richardson, not a young guy anymore. So more likely to happen, the Browns win 6 games or Kirk Cousins wins the MVP.
Well, man, that's putting me on the spot on that one.
Sure is.
Man, okay. Can I ask a question to that question?
Please.
Who is the Browns starting quarterback and the running back?
Well, they're getting their starting quarterback is going to be Tyrod Taylor to start the season.
Okay. Will they get Saquon Barkley in the draft?
I can't answer that. I cannot answer that.
It's really
they're going to have a shot at Saquon Barkley. Probably.
Okay, you know what? Then I will. I would say the Browns.
No confidence in the starting quarterback.
I'm just kidding. Wouldn't even say that. Honestly, I think it's because of the field as a whole. Because to me, especially in the NFL, for the MVP, it's anyone's ball game year in and year. It's not like the NBA where you have it's these few guys, it's so and so to lose or something like that. So to me, I don't know.
I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit. I think you're right that it's a little bigger of a net in the NFL, but I do think it comes down to quarterbacks. I don't know. It's unfair to running backs because I think if you look at importance to team, I think Todd Gurley was the most valuable player this year, but he didn't win it. That obviously goes to a quarterback. Does that change your thinking at all? But you still going with the Browns?
The only award I would give Kirk Cousins potentially on how he does for meshing with, because the thing too is how does he mesh in this year with Diggs and Thielen and Jarius Wright, all these guys. How do they do? How do they mesh well? I would give him, if I was to give him an award or a better shot, it'd be most improved in that aspect of, because now he actually has a running back. He has better offensive targets. I mean, he's got all these weapons at his disposal that, yes, could help him get the MVP, but I'd be more confident of most improved for how he's done.
All right, a little more than 3 minutes here, so just answer it. Give me a couple sentences, and then we'll go. All right. Better year this year, Jordy Nelson or Jimmy Graham?
And Jordy went
to the Oakland Raiders with an underperforming quarterback.
I'm going to have to go with Jimmy Graham because he's got Aaron Rodgers. No offense to Derek Carr, but
and Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers has a tight end now. That's all I'm going to leave it as.
Finally
yeah,
has
he's
a tight
finally
end.
gotten one.
Okay, Rams get rid of Sammy Watkins. He gets grossly overpaid by this Kansas City Chiefs. Better season, Sammy Watkins or the guy that he was replaced with, Brandon Cooks?
I'm going to go Brandon Cooks.
I would agree with you.
I just think he's in a better situation. Not to go against Patrick Mahomes but I think Kansas City is kind of in a more of feeling out process in of what their identity is going to be. Granted, it'll probably be thrown because of Patrick Mahomes, but I'm going to have to go with Brandon Cooks.
Okay, I want to talk about I just had his name and I lost it real quick here. Let me find it again. Michael Crabtree going to the Ravens. He goes to the Ravens. Does he have a better or a worse year than he had in Oakland?
I have to say better because I don't know if he can have much of a worse year for how bad he did.
That's fair, but Joe Flacco is a liability at quarterback, is he not?
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's why I was like, I don't know. I think he's gonna be there. It's kind of like when Mike Wallace went there too. Mike who? I mean, the wide receivers are just there in Baltimore nowadays. You don't really hear a lot. You hear more about what Flacco's been doing wrong or right more than you hear about a wide receiving core.
The most successful former Giants quarterback or former Vikings quarterback this year, Teddy Bridgewater with the Jets. Sam Bradford somehow making $20 million with the Arizona Cardinals, or Case Keenum out in Denver.
I'm gonna have to go Case Keenum. He's the best setup. He's got a defense. It's kind of like he's going to a not as good of a team as the Vikings, but he's gonna have a defense that can help keep him in games. There's not much pressure. Bridgewater, the Jets aren't good, and the Cardinals are paying Grandpa, Grandpa Bradford over here to go sit on the bench.
Well, they think he's going to be able to play. We'll see if he is
Him
able.
or Mike Glennon.
Yeah,
Good luck.
If he is able to play, I think that'll be interesting. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up here real quick, Chris. We're under a minute. Minnesota Timberwolves, are they a playoff team?
Yes.
Yes. How many points does Andrew Wiggins score? How many does he need to score for that to happen?
He needs to score at least 15. I think he'll give about 20.
You'll give him 20, so you like him covering a 3.5-point spread?
Yeah.
All right. That's quizzing Chris Notch in the last segment on what he would rather have happen. Good luck to his Minnesota T-Pups, as he calls them. My Bucks are securely in the playoffs. I wouldn't necessarily say my Bucks, but anyways, we'll have more breakdown of the NBA playoffs on Friday, so join us Friday for all of that. Thank you so much for watching the Border Battle. For Chris, great crew around here, I'm Jordan King. You're listening to Border Battle on OSU Student Radio KXCY.
For O State TV.